is consciousness always, stuck inside a body?
Yeah.
Or could there be states of awareness that are just out there, separate from us?
It's a big question. Really challenges how we think about ourselves, right? We feel like, we're in here.
Exactly. In the brain, in the body. But what if that's, well, not the whole story? And that's exactly what we're diving into today. We're looking through a very specific window, Arthur Avalon's The Serpent Power.
A classic text, definitely. Dense stuff.
It is. And that's why for this deep dive, we're really zooming in. We're only looking at section 2, pages 25 to 48.
Right, the section titled Bodiless Consciousness. It really sets the stage, philosophically speaking.
It does. It talks about the ultimate nature of reality, specifically through Kuṇḍalinī Yoga, Shiva, Shakti.
That whole framework?
Our mission today, just pull out the core ideas from these specific pages. We want to get a handle on this view of ultimate consciousness. What is it? How does power fit in? And crucially, how does this formless thing supposedly create, well, everything we see?
And we're sticking just to what Avalon presents in this section. No bringing in outside stuff.
Absolutely. Okay, so how does the text start? Where does it begin defining this ultimate reality?
It kicks off with the foundational idea, spirit, or pure consciousness. The text uses terms like chit or sambit.
Chit, yeah.
Think of it as the absolute base layer, the pure isness of everything, before form, before anything else.
And does it give it characteristics? Like, what is this pure consciousness like?
Yeah, it does. According to these pages, it's singular, just one. It's infinite. The word used is aputi, which kind of implies boundless, not limited. And this is key. It's formless, arupa. No shape, no size, no location as we normally understand them.
But that's not the whole picture, is it? The text brings in something else, something dynamic.
Exactly. Right alongside this, static, formless consciousness, it introduces power.
Shakti.
So if consciousness, which is often linked to the name Shiva, is the, let's say, the awareness, the potential, then Shakti is the energy, the active force, the doing. The source actually calls her the mother of the universe.
Wow. And they're connected.
Inseparable is how it's put, like two sides of one coin, distinct functions, one static, one kinetic or active, but you can't have one without the other. Shiva is the consciousness. Shakti is his power. Okay,
so the world as we experience it are thoughts, physical objects, matter that's not separate then, is part of this whole spirit consciousness thing.
That's the idea. Mind and matter aren't seen as fundamentally different substances. They're expressions or parts of that ultimate reality.
But the text does make a distinction, right, between the consciousness part and the matter part.
Oh, definitely. It stresses that pure consciousness is pure awareness. Matter, on the other hand, is described as, well, unconscious in this view.
That's a crucial difference. So where do our minds fit in? Our everyday thinking consciousness? It feels conscious, obviously, but maybe not. Yeah. Purely conscious in the way Chit is described.
Right. And here, the mind has a very specific role according to the text. It acts as a kind of limiter.
A limiter? How so?
It's like it takes that infinite, boundless, pure consciousness and puts constraints on it, like a lens-focusing light or maybe a filter. This limiting function is what allows us to have finite, individual experiences within the manifested world.
I see. So the limitation creates the experience.
In a way, yes. And that's why the text describes the supreme consciousness, the ultimate state, as mindless amana. It's beyond the structures and limits of what we typically call mind.
Okay, this is where it gets really fascinating for me. If the ultimate reality is this infinite, formless nothingness almost, how does it possibly give rise to this, the complex, solid, diverse world we live in? How does the one become the many?
That's the million-dollar question, isn't it? And the text explains this through the process of manifestation, which it links to something called apparent-parent unconsciousness, or prakriti. The idea is that the limited consciousness we experience isn't pure chit. It's chit sort of interacting with or mixed with this principle that occurs unconscious.
So consciousness isn't just an on-off switch. It's more like a spectrum. The text suggests that.
It does, yeah. It talks about consciousness manifesting in degrees from things we see as inert, like minerals, all the way up through plants, animals, and reaching its highest potential in human beings within this particular cycle of creation.
And there's a mechanism described for this shift from infinite to finite. Something about a veil.
Yes, exactly. Exactly. The concept of Maya, it's absolutely central.
Maya. Illusion, right.
Well, illusion, but also cosmic play or power. Shakti, the active power of consciousness, also functions as Maya. And Maya is what veils or covers up that infinite formless reality.
So it hides the true nature of things.
Kind of. Think of it as the power that makes the seamless whole look like it's broken into parts. It takes the infinite and, as the text implies, cuts it down into the finite forms and separate objects we perceive.
So Maya is basically the reason we experience duality. Me, you, this, that.
According to this section, yes. Shiva, the consciousness aspect, remains the unchanging background, the foundation, but Shakti, operating as Maya, is the active force that weaves the whole tapestry of duality.
Interesting.
And the text does mention specific stages in this unfolding process, using terms like Sadashiva, Shvara, Shtavidya, indicating steps down from the ultimate reality.
Okay, let's bring this down from the cosmic scale a bit. The section also talks about a specific energy within us, right? Kuṇḍalinī Shakti.
Yes, it brings that cosmic power, Shakti, right into the individual. It's described as being coiled up at the base energy center, the Muladhara chakra.
The base of the spine area.
Generally, yes. It's seen as the concentrated power of manifestation, but dormant within the individual body, the microcosm reflecting the macrocosm.
And the text uses some pretty vivid analogies to describe it, doesn't it? To help us grasp it.
It really does. It's famously likened to a coiled serpent bhujangi. Suggests this potent sleeping energy.
Right, the serpent power.
Exactly. Also a bangle, kundala, emphasizing that coiled circular form. And then there are others, like a mathematical line with no magnitude.
Abstract.
Yeah, pointing to its pure potentiality before it manifests as anything concrete. And also a grain, Chanaka, that contains two seeds, maybe hinting at the duality, the potential for manifestation inherent within it.
So it's presented as this incredibly compressed, potent energy just sitting there at our base.
Yes, the source of potential power. And its movement, when it does move, isn't random. It's described as spiraling.
Spiraling.
Like a spiral. While the ultimate return path to pure consciousness might be thought of metaphorically as a straight line, Rijurika, the force of Maya, the power that actually creates the world of forms, causes energy to move and manifest in spirals, Vakrareka.
Okay.
This spiral movement is then linked to how reality itself unfolds, creating structures like spheres, or what the text calls eggs of Brahma, cosmic spheres of creation.
Wow, so the movement of this energy inside us mirrors how the cosmos itself is formed.
That's the connection being made, absolutely. The individual Kundalini energy is tied directly to the grand cosmic cycles of evolution, Suri, the universe unfolding from its base state, Mula Prakriti.
And dissolution.
And dissolution, Pralaya, the return to that state. The journey of Kundalini awakening in a person is seen as mirroring that cosmic unfolding and folding back in.
And what drives all this creation, this manifestation, both cosmic and individual, does the text give a reason? It mentioned desire.
It does. Maya itself is described as the potentiality, the seed of the universe, residing with Mahakundali, the great Kundalini, and Shiva. And the text explicitly connects the impulse for creation to the desire for worldly enjoyment.
Enjoyment.
Bhukti, yes. Enjoyment or experience. This desire is often seen as arising from ignorance, avidya, which is essentially the veiling effect of Maya obscuring our true nature. So this desire for experience is presented as the engine driving the whole show.
So within this particular yoga path described in this section, what's the goal then? If desire for enjoyment drives creation, is the aim just to stop desiring?
Not exactly, and this is a key point in the Shakta Tantra perspective presented here. The text highlights two main aims or aspects of consciousness: enjoyment, bhukti, and liberation.
Mukti. So both, not just liberation from the world.
Right. Unlike some paths that might emphasize detachment or escape, this approach aims to achieve both. To find liberation through and within the experiences of the manifested world, not necessarily by rejecting it outright.
How does that work? How can you have both worldly enjoyment and spiritual liberation?
Well, the text explains it as the formless consciousness, Shiva, willingly providing his power, Shakti, and essentially choosing to endow himself with the forms of worldly life. The desire for enjoyment, for experience, arises from this divine play. The path involves understanding the source of enjoyment and the nature of the world, not just running away from it.
And you mentioned something about even the stress of being in the world playing a role.
Yes, that's a really interesting point in the text. It suggests that the very movement from a state of stress, the tension and friction experienced within manifested forms, can itself be the catalyst, the process, that leads one back towards the state of pure, unstressed consciousness, Niskala Shiva.
So the journey through the challenges is part of the path back.
It seems to imply that, yes, engaging fully, understanding the play of forces, and through that, finding the way back to the source.
Okay, there's one more fundamental principle discussed in relation to manifestation that really stood out. Sound. Vibration.
Ah, yes, Shabda, crucial concept. The text presents sound not just as something we hear, but as a fundamental creative principle of reality itself.
Like the universe is made of sound.
In a manner of speaking, yes. Or arises from a fundamental vibration. The text describes stages of sound, starting from something totally unmanifest.
Stages?
Yeah. It begins as parashabda, or avyaktanada, the unmanifested causal sound or vibration. Think of it as pure potential. Then it moves through intermediate, subtler stages, pashanti, which is sometimes described as sound as sight or pure mental conception, and madhyama, more like formulated thought, mental sound.
Before we actually hear it.
Exactly. Before it becomes vikari, the articulated, audible sound that we speak and hear. It's like the whole process, from a deep intention to forming the thought to actually voicing it.
And this sound principle, shabda, is linked to how we perceive reality, objects and meaning.
Yes. The text draws a direct link between shabda, which means sound, but also word, language, concept, and artha, which is the meaning, the object, the form that the sound or word refers to.
So sound and meaning are like the basic building blocks.
Derived from that ultimate unmanifest vibration, yes. It's the idea that underlying all forms and concepts is this fundamental vibratory potential.
And that leads to the idea of Shabda Brahman.
Precisely. Shabda Brahman is the ultimate reality, Brahman, conceived of specifically as the source of all sound and meaning, the all-pervading vibrational consciousness from which both the word Shabda and the world, Artha, emerge, often linked to a primary creative pulse like Parashiva or Bindu. Sound isn't just an effect, it's a creative force.
Wow. Okay, we've really journeyed through quite a bit just in these pages, from that ultimate, formless, pure consciousness
to the dynamic power, Shakti, and her role as Maya, veiling and manifesting.
Is down to the Kuṇḍalinī energy coiled within us.
The goal of integrating enjoyment and liberation.
And finally, this profound idea of sound, Shabda, as the underlying creative vibration. It's a lot to take in.
It definitely paints a very different picture of reality. Consciousness isn't just in the body, it is the fundamental reality, playing with its own power to create everything inside and out.
So, for you listening, what does all this spark? It really invites you to maybe reconsider things. Your mind, your body, the energy you feel, the world around you. These aren't just abstract ideas from an old text. They offer a potentially radical way of seeing reality.
Yeah, and maybe a final thought to leave you with, drawing from this section. If we really take seriously this idea that the ultimate reality is formless, infinite consciousness, and everything we experience, including ourselves, arises from that consciousness playing with its own power, its own Shakti, what does that actually imply about the limits we perceive in ourselves? Are those boundaries truly fundamental? Or are they perhaps just part of this cosmic dance, this Maya? If we are, at our core, that boundless consciousness, what potential does that unlock? Something to think about.